Okay, welcome back to another video, and we're going to be doing another tier list. Now, I did a Marvel tier list a little while ago, ranking the MCU. I kind of like doing tier lists, they're quite fun. And I said I was going to do one for the Percy Jackson series once I was completely done with my reactions. Obviously, we don't have season 3 just yet, but I'm going to be ranking every single episode, kind of having a little bit of a chat about each one, explaining their placements. I've kept just the default placements with S tier, A, B, C, and D. Kind of treating it like, S tier is peak episode, no notes, no improvements, nothing. Whereas A is like good, maybe one or two things that are a bit meh, or, B is probably more like middle of the road. And then C is like not as big of a fan, and then D is like trash. So I've put all of the episodes for seasons 1 and 2. We're going to go through them in chronological order. But before I do it, I wanted to show off because I've committed. I've committed to the Percy Jackson fandom now. I picked up books. I got that one, and I got that one. They're really, really nice books. I got them from Waterstones. And inside, I don't know how well you're going to be able to see this because I'm up in the corner, but it's got art. It's got a lot of art, and kind of like throughout. Oh, that was a good one for me to land on, actually. There's Polyphemus. So you've got artwork, and the inside is just really nice. The sides are like painted on. It's brilliant. They're really, really gorgeous books. And I hope that they continue to release these versions of them because they're so nice. I haven't. They smell pretty good. You always have to sniff a book. I don't know now where I'm going to put these, but I wanted to show them off. Let's go ahead and rank the episodes. Okay, so I'm going to be ranking these in a sense of like just pure enjoyment, not whether or not they matched the books, like the source material, whether or not, like they adapted it well, like that sort of thing. I'm going purely based off of this being a TV show. So, with that being said, season 1, episode 1, which is this one here. My season 1s are all like over here, and then my season 2s are over here, like not in order. But season 1, episode 1, I think is a solid episode, but it leaves out a lot of important exposition. I think 1 and 2 kind of suffer from the same issue of they don't do a great job explaining it to people that haven't read the source material. But then one of my friends said that, at the end of the day, it is a kid's show. So you kind of just like when you're a kid, you just kind of go along with things, right? You don't need to know everything. But as an adult, I want to know everything. I want to know all the world building and like all the little details and how did this get here. And so purely based off of that, I don't want to like take away how good the first episode is. I think it does a solid job of introducing Percy and Sally and setting up the stakes. We've got the Minotaur fight. The Minotaur fight is very good, especially with the over the shoulder shots. So season 1, episode 1 is going to go to A tier. I'm fairly happy with like putting it in A tier. Season 1, episode 2, I think I prefer. I don't know whether or not I'm gonna like jumble them around inside their tiers either, like I did with the MCU one. But I think I preferred episode 2 over episode 1, simply because we got more of that world building, but it did feel like they were leaving quite a bit out. I liked going around Camp Half Blood and being introduced to it. The introduction to all the cabins. I think the sets were really well done. The costumes look great. Obviously, like, all of the actors brought their A game. We got the introduction to Annabeth, we got Capture the Flag, we got Flossing, we got our introduction to Clarice, and the really, really good choreography. It is missing some exposition, but I think with the rest of the season backing it up, the exposition matters less. I'm going to put this episode in S tier. I think it's really, really good. And I think that if you're going to show somebody, like if you're going to try and get somebody into watching Percy Jackson, I would show them the first 2 episodes and be like, are you fucking with the vibe, or are we not liking it, sort of thing. If they like it, we're on, we're on the right track. So episode 3, the Medusa one. Now, when I first watched it, I didn't like this episode because I was like, oh, it's proper cheap that they turned her invisible, and you're not gonna get to see anything gory. They cheap out on like effects because she's invisible. But it happens in the book. And I know, like I said, I'm not going to be ranking this off of like how credible of an adaptation it is. But knowing that this is how it's supposed to be makes me go a little bit easier on it. I think that this episode's fine. I've got like no issues with this episode. And I like that we get a little bit of history and storytelling from Medusa. I think this episode kind of sits in A. I think it can sit in A quite comfortably. I was tempted to stick it in B because it is kind of like the start of our side quest adventure. But you know what? If I'm basing everything off of being a side quest, then half the first season is going to go in B, which I can't do. So we're not going to. Season 1, episode 4. Now, I was really surprised by this episode, really enjoyed it. The pacing was fast in this episode. We were zipping through. The effects were great. We had Echidna and the Mother of Monsters, Chimera, all of that stuff. We had like the big St. Louis bridge thing, and then him landing in the water at the end. Really, really good episode. I really enjoyed it, and for me, it was like... In fact, I think, for me, like, the first 4 episodes are really solid. And I think if you were going to if you were going to try and get somebody into Percy Jackson, like I said, the first 2 episodes are kind of like a good, like, taster, I guess, because it's about an hour in total, like an hour and a bit. But if you wanted to sit down and watch it like a movie, then I think episodes 1 through 4 work really well as, like, a sort of just under 2 hours film. So... Season 1, episode 4, I really do enjoy it. I really do like it. I think they did a great job with the effects and stuff. It's going in S tier. It's going in S tier. Now we're going to take a dip. We're going to take a dip because if we're structuring season 1 like it's a film, or 2 films, then, sequels aren't always great. And season 1, episode 5 is not great. It's got some great little moments in it. But overall, like, this whole portion of, even in the book, I think was just doomed. Like, you weren't going to be able to adapt it. Not with, like, the budget that they have and stuff. But Edge coming in as Ares, really, really good. I was a little bit iffy with him at first, but then kind of when he comes back in season 2, I warmed up to him, and then it's kind of had, like, a ripple effect back, and now I just like him as Ares. But I think his introduction is good. I like the... him and Grover kind of have like a bit of a back and forth, and I like the fucking needle drop when they're on the boat. But when I was doing my reactions to it, like I said, you can tell, oh, this is a set. A lot of it feels kind of hokey and kind of Disneylandy, which, is fine for a kid's show, but the rest of the show beforehand didn't really feel like that. And this is where the cracks kind of started to show. So I'm going to put season 1, episode 5 in B tier. The next episode, season 1, episode 6. I'm sorry, it's got one really, like, genuinely good moment, and that's when they get in the car. Everything up until the car, I really disliked. I like the scenes, like, where they're all together and interacting when they first arrive and then, like, when they're leaving. I like all of that stuff. I like the sort of prelude and the ending of the episode. But the middle portion, when they're actually at the casino, I don't like. It feels too much like Side Quest City. And it also, they throw Hermes in here. And I just don't fuck with Lin-Manuel Miranda as Hermes. I think it's nice that they got, like, a big name to, star in their Disney show. He's a big Disney name, but no, I think it really derailed. It was a slow episode. And like I said, the only good portion was the ending portion where Percy gets the pearls and they're on the beach. They'd just stolen the car. I love all the car stuff. The car joke's fantastic. You know, Percy having road rage and stuff. But the rest of the episode, not for me. I'm going to put it in C. I don't think it's unwatchable. It's not an episode I would necessarily skip if I was rewatching. But this show, fortunately, has an advantage because a lot of the episodes are so short that I'm like, I wouldn't skip it. If it was like an hour long, okay, maybe I would skip it. But then we got episode 7. Episode 7 was great. This was insane. This is the point where, like, if I was going to watch this in 2 chunks and watch the first 4 episodes of the film and then watch the second 4 episodes of the film and I was watching it with somebody, I'd be like, hold on, we're getting there. Don't worry. But I really, really loved episode 7. I like the casting for Hades, though his reveal is slightly underwhelming if you have read the book, but taking the book out of consideration, I think it kind of works. I think it works for the show. I like how this is how you're introduced to the gods. He's kind of, I don't know, he isn't obviously the first god that we've met, because we've met Ares and Hermes. But this is like, you know, we met them out in the world where they're kind of blending in with people. This, we get a glimpse of like Hades in his world, in his home, and how he dresses and looks and stuff. And, you know, maybe if we see him outside, we may get like a different actor for him or a different wardrobe or whatever. But how he is here, I really liked that. I thought like the interior for his palace was really, really cool, like his castle. We had the pit of Tartarus, we had Cerberus. I just really loved it, and it was what was needed after a really weak episode 5 and 6, especially episode 6. So episode 7 for me, ooh, I think it's goated, you know? I think it's going up here. I genuinely think it's like, there's some iffy CGI moments, but overall the sense of scale for this show blows up when you get to episode 7, because you're going through the underworld. I just think it's such a vast improvement over the previous episodes. And then, lastly, for season 1, Lance Riddick, R.I.P., we got the introduction of Zeus, we got to meet Poseidon. Now, it weren't the first time we met Poseidon, because we met Poseidon in episode 7, but it was the first time Percy met Poseidon. So, ooh, this one's interesting, because I thought it was a little bit of a weaker episode. I thought that it was let down by there not really being anybody in Olympus. Olympus was barren, and it was literally just like this big CGI scape with Lance Riddick and Poseidon just up there. I do like the casting. The casting carried this episode. And then obviously we get, you know, the quest ends, we get the reveal at the end with Luke, the fight with Luke, which was great. I think because of some of the letdowns earlier on, and it's difficult, because again, like, you know, you're adapting the book, and the book can do whatever it wants, because it's a book, right? But you've got to ignore that and focus on the show. And was it good as a TV show? I think it just, Olympus felt a bit iffy. And I think Olympus would have felt better if it looked more like Polyphemus' island, and it had more of like a green, you know, natural kind of feel to it. But because it was at the top of the Empire State, and because of the lack of people, it felt weird. I think that's the only thing letting down this episode for me. I think everything else was solid. I'm going to put this episode in A tier. I'm going to throw it in there. I've decided that I'm not going to be ordering these unless there's like a very, very clear episode that I prefer over the others. But that's all of season 1, which, to be honest, it's a lot more positive than I was expecting it to be. But I think that this kind of goes to show what kind of viewer I am, because I value stuff like good sets, good acting, and world building over sort of like filler stuff. Or if you're gonna have filler stuff, like throw in some world building, or like, I don't know. But I'm pretty happy with that. Let's go on to season 2. So season 2, episode 1, we get the introduction to Tyson. It's the dodgeball with the cannibals. We get the 3 fates in the taxi. Annabeth's back. And then we get to camp and find out that Thalia's tree has been poisoned. The introduction to the prisoner guy that I keep forgetting the name of. Tantalus. I'm getting good at remembering stuff, though. Like, I'm getting a lot better when it comes to Percy Jackson, because there's a lot to remember. I think this was a solid episode. It's not as good as... It's not S tier. But this has enough solid moments. And, like, I love the physical costumes on Lystragonians. Is it the Lystragonian cannibal troll people things? Love the physical costumes on them. I love the physical costumes on the Fates and all of that stuff. It just felt really well done and really polished. Like, you could tell that they were moving from using CGI to practical. And it looked great. It felt... I don't know. It kind of had, like, good Scooby-Doo vibes, which I keep comparing this show to. Is like Scooby-Doo and Harry Potter thrown together. But, yeah, I think that this was a really, really solid episode. And I'm going to throw it in A tier. Then, Season 2, Episode 2 has, I'm not gonna lie, probably one of my favourite moments of the entire show. Like, the chariot race is genuinely amazing. Genuinely. It is so fucking good. Like, I cannot... It's brilliant. Like, the stunt work is fantastic, the costumes are fantastic, the chariots themselves are fucking brilliant. Everything to do with the birds was adapted really well. We're not focusing on the books, but it was done really, really well. Him holding up the boombox and playing Mariah Carey was fantastic. She's known for her whistle notes. So, of course, it was just brilliant. The only thing, and you know what it's going to be, the only thing was the Hermes scene. I hated it so much. This is what made me dislike Lin-Manuel Miranda as Hermes. I didn't mind him in season 1, but again, it's that ripple effect of it rolling back. I hated it here. I really hated it. They did such a good job with, like, the betrayal, where, like, Annabeth had to betray Percy, but, like, it was for a reason, and Clarice getting picked for the quest, and all that sort of stuff was all fantastic. This would be a goated episode if it wasn't for that fucking Hermes scene. I just don't like the way that he talks and, like, the way that he portrays Hermes. It feels like they literally just plucked him off the street and were like, we need you to read these lines. We need you to come to this beach. We're going to drive you out to a beach at, like, 6 a.m. We're going to pay you probably, like, 30k, maybe 50... we'll pay you $1 million. We'll give you £1 million to be on this beach and read these lines, and then don't come back. I don't hate Lin-Manuel Miranda. I think he's great in Hamilton. I think he's done great work on everything else. I just don't like him here. I don't buy him as Hermes. Oh, and it's let the episode down for me, and it's got one of my favourite moments in it. I'm sorry, but it's gonna have to go there. It's gonna have to go top of A tier. That's really fucking painful, you know. That's really fucking painful. Okay. Episode 3. I was like, oh, we've got a filler episode. But because of, like, the marketing and stuff, I kind of knew that Luke was gonna be here at some point. Like, I'd seen the picture of Luke in the jumper looking like a fucking frat boy. I knew he was gonna be here at some point, you know, in the season. But I didn't know it was gonna be on the cruise ship. Obviously, though, I'd then listen to the book. So I was like, oh, okay, this must be where Luke appears. And so going into it, I was like, oh, okay, probably going to be a filler episode, but how are they going to handle the Luke stuff? Because you're not going to have Luke here if it's a filler episode. Introduction to Allison, an OC, apparently. I really like her. I don't know if she's returning. Apparently she's not returning, which would be weird. But I think she's a great character. And a really, really good kind of like opposition for kind of like Luke and Percy and then Annabeth and Allison. I like that. I think that's cool. So I hope that she sticks around. But yeah, I mean, we get kind of the reveal of Kronos' plan here. We get the big reveal that it's Kronos' cruise ship. It's his like main base. It's where Luke is kind of operating from. It was pretty good. It wasn't a terrible episode at all. To be honest, I can't really remember what else happened in it aside from like a cool fight. It had some good comedy. I think it's B tier. I think it's B. Like, looking back at it, I kind of feel the same way about it as I do this episode. So I feel like it deserves to sort of be here. Season 2, Episode 4. May just be the best episode of Season 2. I'm just gonna say. This episode could do no wrong. When we started it, I was like, oh, filler. Okay, we're going for like a double whammy of filler. A double whammy of filler, but with some world building. Brilliant moment with Clarice and Percy, where he's like talking to her. He wants to get out of the room because he just wants his sandwich. Introduction to Hippocampi. All of the Annabeth flashbacks. We needed the Annabeth flashbacks so badly at this point. I could have done for like just a full episode of Annabeth flashback at this stage, because we've been talking about it constantly. It's so important to the story and to this specific seasonal plot, and it took us so long to get there. But I'm glad that we finally got context for it, and we had some great emotional moments with Annabeth for this episode, and then we got the finale, final act of the episode, which is like visually the best thing this show has ever done, with like Percy on the front of the ship, Clarice with her fucking gadung 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 gadung, like fucking firing on Charybdis, Scylla like plucking people and grabbing people. It was fantastic. It was so good, and the score was brilliant. And I think if you're watching this show and up to this point you've kind of been like, meh, you know, meh, I can give or take. You know, I'm just here to have fun. I'm along for the ride. If you kind of like hit episode 4 and you didn't get a bit of excitement, I'd be a little bit concerned. I'd be like, really? Really? You didn't enjoy that? Like, you're still meh about it? Like, no. Season 2, episode 4 is peak. I said it at the time when I was doing my reaction. I love it. It was brilliant. And yeah, they absolutely nailed it. The visual effects, everything. So well done. Then we have episode 5, which was Cece's spa and whatever. This one was kind of like a change of pace, which is probably what you needed after like a big climatic kind of like action piece. This is more than likely what we needed. And we had like all the stuff with the sirens here. I like the changes made. I think it was good. The fake out with Athena really, really got me. And I don't know, I like all the sets and things in this. It was very, I don't know. This one lent into kind of like that early 2000s fantasy adventure kind of vibe. And I kind of mentioned it in my reactions around like episodes 1 and 2. But this show starts to remind me of like Narnia, The Golden Compass, Stardust, like the old live action Christmas Carol movies, you know, kind of like those fantasy period sort of, everything's physical, there's not a lot of CG that's noticeable, like those kind of vibes, right? Like something that you would really enjoy as a kid and make you want to go pick up a sword and go pretend to do it outside. And this show kind of lent into that a lot, and this episode I think continued that, but it was just in like, they lent in hard with the fantasy vibes for this one. Lent in hard. Like, we had some wild costumes going on. We had the guinea pig stuff. Again, like, all of the stuff with the sirens. I think it was a really, really well made episode. I don't think my personal enjoyment, I didn't necessarily think, oh, wow, that was such an amazing episode, you know. It's going to go in A tier. I think I'm happy with it going in here. This is one of those that's like, this is a good episode. You know, you don't really know why. You can't really explain it, but it's a solid episode. And now episode 6. I enjoy everything they've done with Polyphemus. They did well. They did a really, really good job of Polyphemus. Despite, obviously, like, the budgeting limitations, all of that kind of related stuff, they did good. I think the change up to the plan, I think the plan to get in, solid, you know, pretend to be a sheep, do some barring. And, you know, I love to see me some Percy and Annabeth making sheep noises. Clarice got some really solid stuff this episode. Really, this was a funny episode. I think it fell flat for me, though, because it felt like, I don't know, it's difficult for me to kind of, like, verbalize it. And again, I've not read any of the books past the second book, but it felt like the show suddenly wanted to switch up how it was handling Percy and Annabeth's relationship and how they felt towards each other. And it went from kind of like this slow burn to all of a sudden Percy's like ride or die, you know, like Annabeth or nothing. And I know that in episode 5 beforehand, he says like, oh, I'll fucking burn down Olympus, like to make sure that you're alive. I get that, you know, that was like a little bit of a sprinkle for, oh, you know, he's got a bit of a badass side to him. But this episode, I think, I don't know, like, Percy's my favourite character. So to see him make that decision, and, like, he didn't want to even talk about it with Clarice and Grover, there was no kind of discussion whatsoever. I know that, like, they were kind of biding their, like, they were running out of time, right? I understand that. But I just didn't appreciate the way that he handled it, and I didn't enjoy the writing in the episode at that part. So that knocks it down a little bit for me. It's got the funniest moment of the season, though, where he drops down the hole and Clarice catches him and he says hi. Like, that's a really, really good moment. But the ending of it just, I don't enjoy it. I don't think it's well executed. And it's not the fault of, like, the actors or anything like that. I think it is purely just I dislike the writing choices that are being made. So, I'm going to put that one in B tier. Solid episode, but it's got, like, a piece of it that I'm like, oh, I don't like that. Like, if they tweaked it slightly so that he did listen to Clarice's way of thinking, because she was, like, pretty front and center. It was her quest, you know, and he was willing to let an entire camp of kids die, possibly, for Annabeth. And I'm like, I want you to be a little bit more heroic for the people. And maybe he'll grow into that, I don't know. But we'll see. Anywho, I spoke too long about this episode. Episode 7, where we return to the Kronos cruise ship, which I was happy. I was happy we went back to the cruise ship and we didn't just waste that set. I hope it returns for the next season. It's a solid set. We met Blackjack, the Black Pegasus. That was pretty cool. And we got some brilliant fight scenes going on. We got a showdown between Luke and Percy in the main room where Kronos is. A tussle over the fleece. Clarice took on like fucking 8 people at one time. It was a really, really good episode. And then we roped Sally Jackson back into things. She was yanked unwillingly back into this world. But, well, partly unwillingly. I don't know. I just don't want anything to happen to her. But I think this episode's an A-tier episode. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was solid. We got like a little bit more of the dynamic between Luke and Annabeth, and we kind of saw that Luke is too far gone, but it's not his fault. And I thought that was interesting for his character as well. Like, you can see how much pain he's in. and how much he's struggling and how he might not even want to do this anymore, but he's committed to the cause, you know. Then we got the finale for season 2. This was brilliant. We got the big plot twist with Zeus and Thalia. Fantastic, because they kept, like, edging us with that throughout the entire fucking season. We got the assault on Camp Half-Blood. Now, usually, I would be a stickler for where's my grand epic fight, but we're only in episode 2. We're only in season 2. So I'll let them off. But I didn't like the ending. I didn't like the awkward kind of standoff between the two of them, between Percy and Thalia. I wish that Percy would just bring up to Annabeth or Grover, like, look, I've been having some fucking dreams about her wiping out Camp Half-Blood. So, like, maybe we should be a little bit cautious. But also, I didn't realise at the time of watching, but I did when, like, I went back and I read the book, because I had, like, a chapter or two left. I just finished the show, and then I've recently finished the audiobook. I didn't really clock on fully that it was Kronos' plan all along to bring Thalia into play and to add, like, another chess piece onto the board. And I was like, oh, that's fantastic. Like, that's really, really good. I just don't like the way that that ending scene was written, and I feel like Percy's a very outspoken person. I don't think he would shy away from telling somebody that, you know, oh, I've been having these dreams, by the way, and she's gonna fucking kill everybody. So, just like a small thing that I think damages the episode, but it's such a small thing that I think the rest of the episode is pretty peak, and I'm gonna put it in there. The fight's fantastic. The fight is brilliant, and that Tyson moment, it made me cry. It's the only episode out of both seasons that made me fucking cry when Tyson left with Poseidon. I was like, fuck you. Fuck you, why are we doing this? So there we go. There isn't really any episode that I thought was, like, utter trash and, like, not worth watching at all. Though, this episode is, like, almost there. We'll see when season 3 comes out. So, overall, I mean, you can see from my ranking, I'm a fan of the show. I'm a pretty big fan of the show. I think it does a really, really good job. And I am excited to see more of it. And I'm going to have to watch the films. I'm going to have to watch the movies. I can't do reactions on the films, but I am going to have to watch them at some point and talk about them, aren't I? Really. But yeah, I'm, like, fully in the world of Percy Jackson. If anybody has any recommendations for, like, not so much books, like, because obviously it's easy to find out which books are what and whatever, but if there's maybe any YouTube channels that cover lore and kind of explain things, maybe, anything kind of like that, then feel free to comment them down below, because I love throwing videos on in the background, and, like, even if it's just explaining things I already know, you know, it's just nice to kind of, like, be told them again in a better way and be reminded of it. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. I think the show is a good adaptation of the books. I know that they've left quite a lot of stuff out and made a lot of changes, but I think that it's for the best. And I'm excited to see what season 3 brings, and I really hope that it gets renewed and they're able to finish this sort of, like, 5-season story. You know, I'm aware that the characters continue on with, like, Heroes of Olympus and, like, a couple of other books. But as long as we get the 5 seasons, I think I would be happy with it. Obviously, I'll take as much as I can get, but, you know, we can't be greedy. So, if you wanna go ahead down below and kind of, like, rank them yourself, then feel free. Thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. That kind of puts, like, a bookend on my Percy Jackson content for now. Feel free to go check out some of the other content on the channel. We've got a podcast, we've got reaction content for the MCU, and just other bits and pieces every so often, some comic book related stuff. And also in the description down below is a link to my Instagram. If you want to see, like, what comic books I'm reading, then feel free to go check that out. Thank you for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.